Tell me when you're ready. Good. Up next is a man who needs no introduction. I don't know where he is, but I was hoping he'd show up. So I can see that this is a very crowded room. I really appreciate all the attention. I'd like all of you to make lots of noise so the people on the video don't realize the room's empty. Yeah! Thank you. Logan's next door, and he's going to think I'm awesome now. Okay? I can see that there's not a lot of people here, and that's great because the ones of you that showed up are the ones that are going to make a difference tomorrow, and that's really going to mean something to me. Okay? This is all about how we can improve our community and what's wrong with our community, right? So here we are. My name's Rick Farina. That's what my parents named me. Zero Chaos is what most of my friends call me, and here we are. So I kind of got interested in computers right around the time that my cousin showed me I could play Game Boy games on them for free. It was a great day. I only had like 20 games, and then all of a sudden I had 700. I mean, software piracy's bad. So I learned Linux after that because Windows just really wasn't all that cool, and I wanted to be cool like everybody else. I started leeching free software, and I don't mean stealing stuff. I mean I started downloading free software, Linux stuff, learning about it, but not really giving anything back to the community until one day I learned about the magical world of forums, where you could be as big a jerk as you wanted and there's nothing anybody could do. And that's a big problem, isn't it? My first position in open source was actually on the EtherCap forums. I kind of started by fixing the spelling and the grammar in EtherCap. So if you remember when they started spelling packets correctly, that was my contribution to the product. I was also the beta tester for Windows originally, and then I actually started learning how to fix the code for Windows, which was kind of cool. So, hey, if you could get the picture from really close so it doesn't look like the room's empty, that'd be awesome. Okay. After I did that for a while, I kind of moved on. I'd always interested in layer 2 networking, and that's what had attracted me to EtherCap. I kind of moved on into the aircraft world because Wi-Fi was awesome. I went out, I bought a $300 access point, bought a $200 Wi-Fi card. I sat down on the couch, I'm like, man, this is sweet. Wait a minute. All I did was plug this thing in. There's no way in hell this is secure. So I started Googling, learned a little bit about that, picked up Kismet, picked up Aircrack, and then when Aircrack NG fired up, I just decided that I would start making myself useful. Pensu Linux is a pet project of mine for a while. It's founded by a guy named Gremlin. He is awesome, one of my biggest heroes. We basically set about making our own penetration testing live CD before there was any such thing as that stupid shirt that half this conference is wearing. Something about backwards, I can't remember what it's called. After I became a Pensu developer, I did that for about 7 years, still doing it. I actually got into Gentoo now as a developer, and what they're doing is just so much more fun because now I actually have, more than 12 users. Actually, I have about 500 that downloaded the last beta, which surprised the hell out of me. I was kidding when I said I had teens of users, but I actually do. So, who am I really? Okay, I'm an altruist. I believe that we should be able to help others, but I'm really disappointed by humanity. Okay? I'm an asshole. I kind of put this in every talk at least once, most of the time twice, because I really want to make a point of that. I'm an asshole and people don't like me. The reason that people don't like me is because I am annoying as hell. It's not just the whiny voice, it's the fact that I bother people about things all the time. The reason I bother people about things all the time is because I like to get things done. I don't like waiting around for stuff to happen. I like to get bugs fixed. I like to get enhancements added. I like the fact that I still have Dave Marcus's cell phone. Awesome. Okay. All of the opinions in here are me. I'm going to give my opinions on things, and my suggestions on how we can help out in the community. Nothing I say here is meant as an attack on anyone, any company, anything. I am going to give a few examples. I'm going to try to be polite as I can, although I'm pretty tired at this point because I've already been working for 3 days, so we'll see how that part goes. So let's start off right now in compromise. Whatever I say, you're going to agree with, and if not, shut up, I don't care. All of this revolves around the Free Software Foundation and the GNU philosophy of the way things should be. I think that this is really important. So software, Free software specifically means the users have 4 essential freedoms. You can run it. That's cool. You can study and change it. That's cool if you're, bored. You can redistribute exact copies, and more importantly, you can distribute modified versions. That's awesome. You have all of these freedoms that are handed to you for almost everything that you use. But what's the problem? There's too many leeches. Everybody comes in and they download stuff, but not a lot of people really give back. In the free open source community, that's not a problem because the numbers work out. Okay, there's what, 7, 8 billion of us apes on this planet? So maybe 1 billion use some kind of free open source software on a regular basis. And if like 0.01% give back, that's 10 million developers. How many people in security do we have? Well, if this room is a good representation, not a lot. Okay? It's a lot less than 1 billion users, and honestly, it feels to me like a lot less than 0.01% give back. We mostly just take what's handed to us, both by the Free Software Foundation, all the open source projects out there, and a lot of people they take it, and if it doesn't do what they want, they go to the next one, and if that doesn't do what they want, they say, man, open source sucks, I'm gonna buy it from somebody else. Okay? So we take, Linux, BSD, I do not count Mac in that, this is a free software talk. Programming environments, interpreters, networking tools, all that sweet stuff we take all the time, and we just take it for granted. What do we do with it? We turn it into unicorns and rainbows, man. Everything's awesome. Awesome. But it's just not like that. In the open source community for the hackers, there's really a small number of developers. There's very limited resources. A lot of it's volunteer-based. I know nobody pays me to develop software. Okay? If you see my code, you probably know why. But so corporate focused, there's a lot of companies that contribute to the open source community. I think that's fantastic. But what do you think their number one priority is? It's probably keeping their business running, right? So I mean, these guys, they're very good, they're very helpful. I'm happy to have them in the community, but they're focused on something and they have paid developers that really isn't part of the community in there. There's a lot of users, but most of the bug reports I see are somebody ranting on their blog about how much this product sucks. And I understand that, it happens, but at least leave something on the bug tracker and then link me to your blog about why it sucks. Okay? People ask for help on IRC, leave 2 minutes later without getting a response because, man, you guys suck. Okay? A lot of people don't read the wiki. I know that's the #1 thing you get banned for in the Aircrack channel by me. If you search for the answers, a lot of times you'll find them. Most people just don't search. Okay? So I want to know, the 12 of you in here, who exercises your rights actively? Who runs free open source programs? I should hope most of you do that. Okay, so everybody. Who studies and changes those programs? Again, that's the majority of the room, actually like 80% of the room. Okay? Redistributing exact copies is kind of a Linux distribution thing, so most people don't really do that. But who takes their changes that they made to fix things and then submits it back to upstream? Okay, so me, Oliver, 2 of Oliver's friends, great. So that's the problem. Everybody downloads and uses this stuff. A lot of people change it, they fix it to work on their system, and then no one really takes their modified versions and gives it back. And what we end up with out of this is people whining on IRC about, oh man, I just made this really awesome software, it's so cool, and they don't ever say anything about where I can download it. And then 10 minutes later, they're like, man, I was using Mallory, it was awesome, but why does nobody have their Mallory scripts posted? I really need some Mallory scripts. Does anybody have them? You just said 5 minutes ago this awesome stuff you're doing, and then you didn't link anybody to it. Now you're complaining that nobody links to their stuff. I mean, literally, that was a conversation I had in IRC like 2 weeks ago with the same guy. Okay? So why does nobody do this? The biggest excuse I hear is, oh, it only took me 10 minutes. It's just not that big a deal. My code isn't worth contributing back. I'll be honest, if anybody in here sucks worse at programming than me, I'm sorry, because my coding is just, sorry, I'll just stop right there. Okay? It was easier to write this short script than to fix it properly. I can't count the number of times I've done it that way. I actually had to add this next one while this was being reviewed. It isn't ready yet. Thank you, sir. Yes, those guys need to be Gonna keep this semi-PG. My personal favorite, though, is my work sucks, no one would want it anyway. Okay, so let's look at these excuses, okay? What are the facts? It's nearly always worth contributing it back. I don't care if it's half broken, I don't care if it only is gonna work for you. You did work. That's meaningful. Make it meaningful. To say that what you have done is worthless is to imply that you are worthless. Quit having such a poor opinion of yourself. Something you found useful could be useful to many, many other people. Your work could be extended by somebody else to make it useful to even more people. The thing that you put into Wireshark that you thought was going to be next to useless, that then ends up being extended by somebody else for their protocol, and then it's worthwhile. So let's look at the simple math. It just took me 10 minutes. 1,500 people at DerbyCon. 95% of them don't care at all what you did. That's generous. That means 5% care. 75 people, 10 minutes worth of work, is 12 and a half hours. That's a long work day, man. That's a long work day. But what if your work was a step in the right direction? I couldn't figure out how to do what you just did, and then you get it added to the repo, and it's like, oh man, now my script's gonna work. So I spent 10 minutes worth of work on your 10 minutes, and now it's useful to 10% of the people here. That's 150 people. 20 minutes worth of work total. That's 50 hours. That's a short work week for most of us. Okay? But DerbyCon's small. What about DEF CON? DEF CON had almost 15,000 people this year, so 10 times. That's 500 development hours for something that took 20 minutes. Your little, not yet ready, completely worthless piece of code that wasn't worth submitting back upstream is 500 hours when you just look at DEF CON. And honestly, if you take the cross-section of the people at DEF CON and you look at the smell, you got to realize most of the people with jobs aren't there. And that means that there's a lot of people in this community. 500 hours is nothing. It's nothing. It's huge amounts of wasted time. It's probably close to 50,000 hours when you actually look at all of us trying to do this work. Okay? But I'm too idealistic. I'm only looking at how do we help other people? How do we stop wasting time? Why are we spending 500 hours in our collective companies on 20 minutes worth of work? Who wants to help those worthless bastards anyway? So let's think of ourselves. Can't believe that no one's able to improve your work, right? You're not as awesome as you think you are, with the exception of Dave Relic, who runs this conference. He is as awesome as he thinks he is, and he thinks he's pretty awesome. But the facts are, your elite skills just can't cover everything, okay? I am the first to admit I am awesome at Wi-Fi, and if you want me to penetrate a box, you better give me cardboard and a knife, because that's just not what I'm good at. I can get you onto that network, and then I can dust off my hands and leave. Okay? Contributing your code back to the original projects gives them a chance to be built upon by somebody else that's going to give you something better at the end of the day. It's all about you. If you give up what you can do, somebody else builds on what you can do, and then you get something better. Okay? But what happens when your laptop dies? What happens when your backup hard drive fails? What happens when a TSA agent accidentally lifts it out of your laptop? I mean, I'm not saying things like that ever happen. The New York Press said that. 500 TSA employees fired or suspended for stealing from passenger luggage. I think the odds are they each stole one thing, right? Wasn't that one guy selling like $250,000 worth of stuff on eBay while still on the clock? Okay? So the worst case, you get offers from other people to help improve your stuff. You may as well just submit things upstream. You may as well get some way to make this information public. It's actually funny to say, but running Pen 2 at one point we said, well, I'll make this obvious. Show of hands, who's heard of Pen 2? Wow, so all of my fans are here. So in a normal room, nobody would have raised their hand because everyone would be like, oh yeah, what's that, right? So I mean, literally, that's actually more users than I thought I had 2 weeks ago. But the problem is you sometimes just don't have a lot of development staff. Maybe it's just you're just running a small project, and you just put things online so that you have a place to access them, so that it's on somebody else's server instead of yours. And I mean, a lot of open source projects actually start that way, and honestly, mine's kept running that way. For a long time, we all said, you know, who cares if we have any users? If it's just the 3 of us, we're going to keep doing this because we like doing it. And that's what we did. We had an SVN so that the whole three of us could develop and maintain Pentoo and use it. The fact that there are users is cool, but we didn't care. Subjects that I've been purposefully avoiding: non-disclosure agreements, when your work says, everything you ever do while you're employed by me is mine. There's nothing I can do about evil. I highly recommend, not signing stuff like that. The more important one, though, is a lot of people simply don't really understand how to give back to the community. They write these scripts and then they're like, man, I wish that I was cool and I could have my own project and I could give people my cool stuff, but it's just so much work. But it's really not that much work, so I'm going to take this excuse away from you, okay? So how do I give back? Does Upstream have a bug tracker, a forum, IRC, mailing list? Most importantly, do you have patience? Is Upstream dead? I know I've worked on a few things that have been dead forever. Most people would say Pentoo qualified for that until recently. So what do? Okay, you go to the website of the project that you want to work on, something you want to fix, something you want to extend, and you join the Bugzilla. You join the forums, the mailing list, IRC. 2 rules. If not for this, for life. Don't be a dick, be humble. And rule 2 is be patient. Remember, no matter how awesome you are, no matter how awesome your improvement is, no matter the fact that you made this sweet stuff, you only did it because somebody else was there in front of you. I am a worthless sob. Gremlin made Pentoo, I joined after. But he's worthless too, because Gentoo made the entire base distro and all we did was add a couple of packages. Well, those guys are worthless without Stallman, because otherwise we wouldn't have GNU. GNU was pretty worthless until they had a kernel that didn't suck, so thanks Linus. So pretty much unless you're Linus, you got somebody's shoulders that you're standing on that is way better than you, period. So remember that when you're talking to people about how awesome your improvement is, that, it's their project. Okay? What happens when Upstream's dead? You got nobody to talk to. That's what GitHub's for, I'm told. Personally, I can't use Git because I'm retarded, and that's what SourceForge or Google Code is for. These guys will give you free SVN, Git, please don't use CVS anymore. They'll give you a bug tracker, they'll give you mailing lists. I mean, all of these guys will give you all the things you need to succeed, not just personally, but to actually have other people use your code. Okay? Amazon Web Services, you can put up a nice little website, do it all yourself, or you can use one of the pre-made services. Lowendbox.com is something a buddy of mine showed me earlier today. It was really cool. It's just a, what was it, like $15 a year was their cheapest box, and you can have a VPS somewhere that you can develop on. I don't know about you, but I travel way too bloody much, and it's kind of cool to have somewhere I can store all my stuff instead of my laptop that gets dropped an awful lot by the baggage handlers. I won't mention any airline names. Okay? The most important thing I'm trying to stress is to be public about things that you're doing. When you go searching for something on a mailing list and you say, hey, I've got this problem, and then you realize that there's nobody on the mailing list but you, there's still a mailing list archive. So when you take that code and you put it on GitHub, you have to say, respond to your own message on the mailing list and say, hey, since y'all are dead, I decided I was going to start the project back up again over here with my improvements so that everybody can have them. And it's kind of funny to feel, oh, I'm sending email to nobody. And that's true, you probably are. But somewhere in the future, somebody's going to be looking at that project and they're going to say, crap, this thing doesn't work. And then they're going to look for the problem. And then they're going to see your mailing list post in the archives. And they're going to chuckle. And then they're going to download your code. Then they're going to use it. And then they're going to find your bugs and they're going to report them to you. And if you're dead, they're going to do the same thing. The point is we get to keep the advancements moving if it's done in public. Okay? DriftNet is the best example of that. Awesome piece of code. Can't remember the dude's name that wrote originally, but that has been abandonware for absolutely ever, right? I mean, I started using that years and years ago, and it was dead then. Well, it kind of was broken. So I opened up the code, started hacking, and said, I'm going to make this work on a monitor mode interface so I can sniff stuff in Wi-Fi without being connected. Sweet, right? Yeah. I mentioned I can't code. So like if I recompiled the program depending on which Wi-Fi card I had in at the time, it worked awesome. But if I changed Wi-Fi cards, didn't recompile it, nothing worked because I had to go through and set offsets and it was ugly, right? So I went and Googled. I found 4 different people on GitHub that had forked it, fixed various bugs, and added new features to this dead program. And then I took what they did and I put it all together in a little package, and I'm like, here you go, everybody. Right? That's the idea. The idea is if you keep it public, even if those guys are all not doing it anymore, now I have their fixes. That work that those people did doesn't go to waste. Okay? CMake for Wireshark is another story. Who knows what CMake is? Yep, there's 4 of you. I hate it too, but a lot of people like it. So I decided to try it out. And it worked for one version great, and then it bombed horribly with the next version. But the point isn't that it was broken. The point is that 99% of the work is done for me, and now I just take what's already there, dig into it, fix the bug, send it back, and say, here you go, guys, now it works for everybody again. If things are public, you can do that. If things aren't, they're not. And what's the point of using open source when the only source is on your laptop? How open is that? It's just not very useful, okay? This is my least favorite issue. Uncooperative upstream. The number of times that somebody tells me, it works for me, it's fine. I cannot even begin to count. There's a number of people that I truly respect that still give me this response all the time. It works for me, therefore, not an issue. So I'm feeling really generous. I'm not going to name anybody here, but a couple of you are going to get links to this talk. And seriously, if I linked you to this talk, that's why. Have a nice day. You too. Okay. How do you be a good upstream? I hope you're all still watching. People want to help you. That's the best part of being an open source, is that when somebody adds a new enhancement, when somebody finds something, they send it back to you. That's Christmas, man. That is something you are working on, that somebody hands you an improvement. Don't turn that down. Find a way to facilitate this behavior, okay? Bugzillas, forums, IRC, mailing lists, all of them. Find some way that your users can talk to you, and then plan to get that help, because it's going to happen. If it happens from nobody else, it's going to be me, because I got to make it work too. That's the fun part of being a distro developer, okay? Every free fix that gets turned down hurts people, because otherwise it wouldn't have been a fix, okay? Every unanswered complaint is a lot of users that don't use the software, okay? I normally say, given my download numbers, that for every bug that gets reported that is a critical problem with my software, that there's probably 50 people that downloaded it, said, oh, this sucks, and then done. It's gone. And I'm not going to get a chance to win those users back for a long time until somebody else comes to them personally and says, yeah, dude, this stuff's awesome, you got to try it. And they're going to be like, I don't know, man, it kind of sucked. But if you listen to that first guy that reports it, there's going to be less users turned off by that failure. How to accept help. Don't be a dick. Be humble. Be patient. All of this stuff takes time. It doesn't actually take a lot of effort during that time. It takes a lot of waiting. When I send somebody an email with a patch, they're probably not going to respond to me in 3 seconds like I want them to. But people use your stuff because it's good. That's why they're using it. They're helping you because they want to help you. They want to help you because your software is good. And every time you refuse, you change their mind. Like, this stuff's buggy, you won't accept the fix, this is crap, I'm going to fork it on GitHub. I said I wasn't going to name names, but there's a couple of really big and popular projects that have like 10 or 16 forks on GitHub because they made a change that broke it for everybody, and they refused to fix it because, well, it works for us. I don't know anyone who could think of a large project written in interpreted language like that. So what are the negatives of all this, right? If the patches, the bugs, whatever, are too hard to contribute, people just won't do it. So this isn't just about the people writing the patches, this is about the people that have to accept them, right? If negative feedback is too strong, dude, your coding sucks, nobody's going to help. They're all just going to drop out, they're going to say, all right. And you can see this if you just look through the archives on the Linux kernel mailing list, is you see a couple of people get a really negative response, and then they just disappear, and then that bug stays unfixed, right? This isn't our coding style, we're not going to accept it, is a very polite answer compared to what I normally read. Okay? It doesn't mean to accept garbage, it means don't be a dick and be patient with people. You can say, here's the coding style guide. If you can adjust your coding to look a little bit more like this, we'll help you work through the problems, and then we'll add it to the kernel. remember how much work it is to contribute, okay? You write something up, you send it back. It's not always easy for the user, it's not always easy for the dev, but it's a worthwhile process. We didn't all start off as elite, except for HD Moore. I found a video of him at like 13. He had already like taken over NASA or something. I don't know. So, personal side note, I spent about 12 hours bisecting the kernel one day. For those of you that are as unfamiliar with Git as I am, bisect means you say, it works on this revision, it doesn't work on this revision, and they're normally about 200,000 revisions apart. And what it'll do is it'll center you in between the two, and then you compile that version of the kernel and you test to see if it has the bug. And if it does, then it'll center you halfway between the working version and the non-working version, and it'll keep doing that. So I spent, 12, 14 hours recompiling my kernel trying to find a Wi-Fi bug. I found it. I found the commit that did it. I was so happy. It was the first time I'd ever bisected anything. I still hate Git though. So I spend all this time, I find this bug, I write up a really nice, this is what happens. I unplug my Wi-Fi card, my computer hard locks up, I'm really sad. I cry a little bit. It's my favorite Wi-Fi card and I can't unplug it anymore. I send the email out. I get an immediate response from the developer. You jackass, you can't just email the last guy that committed code and say that it's his fault. So I email him back. I copy and paste what I wrote originally that he was nice enough to trim out for brevity. Say, see here where I said I spent 14 hours bisecting the kernel? I tested like every freaking revision and it was your patch. He's like, well, it doesn't fail here. So anybody here have one of those cool little alpha Wi-Fi cards that everybody in Aircrack recommends? Remember how the LED never turns on when you boot up like Backtrack? That's why. Because for months and months, they left it broken. So if the LED was enabled and you unplugged the card or even RM modded the module, the whole computer would just lock up. I mean, it was like 80% of the time for me, and it was only like 12% of the time for the developer, but he could only bother to unplug it once before he sent me back a snarky email. I probably could have responded better on the list, but I'll let you guys read that if you're really interested. The positives of this, though, is people who are supported contribute more and they work harder. Okay? Free fixes enhancements cost a little bit of time, but it's worthwhile for everybody because that one interaction between you and upstream means that hundreds, if not thousands, of other people get that fix. Think about some of the larger projects. It's a major difference. Even something as stupid as, my name's in the kernel. I sent them a one-line patch that added a USB ID to one of the drivers because that was my card and apparently no other human being in the world had that piece of junk. I put that in the kernel. It was totally worth it. It took me, I don't even know how long, to learn to format my patch properly because apparently diff output wasn't cool enough. But the point is that today's contributors are going to be tomorrow's developers. If you are in charge of a project, then the guy that comes to you with a fix, he's interested in helping. You nurture that a little bit, and all of a sudden he's worthwhile. You get people excited about it. So my story on this one is actually really, really recent. Pentu's been a three-man development team right up until Gremlin had a kid. We kind of slowed down a little bit when he got married, too, for some reason. I think they took like a honeymoon or something for a month. But he slowed down, he backed out, and I kind of took over, and then we were a two-man development team. It was me and Anton, and we did all right. We had a lot of fun. There was no way in hell we were ever going to make a release, but that's cool. We put out a lot of betas and alphas and stuff like that. All of a sudden last month, some guy just kind of pops in. He's like, dude, your menu's broken. Dude, I know. I don't know how to fix it, though. And so he tells me, oh, yeah, no, it's really easy. Just here you go. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Thanks, man. And he just kind of decided to hang out in the channel, and next day I was whining about Wi-Fi drivers, which is pretty much my daily occurrence because that's what I normally do. So I'm compiling switch Pentu to hardened Linux because I'm tired of people exploiting Wireshark at cons. You ever notice that? Every single con there's a new Wireshark exploit. Hit ShmooCon 2 years in a row, DEF CON this year. There was a minor one before Derby, but I think it mostly got patched. But I was just getting tired of that crap, so I decided to go with a hardened kernel so that doesn't happen anymore. And like half the Wi-Fi drivers just flat out don't support it. So I'm, grunting and moaning and screaming out loud in my house, and my dog's really scared. And I just vented in the IRC channel. I'm like, can't these freaking idiots write something that works, right? It works when it's in the kernel. It doesn't work when it's in compat wireless. What the hell? And he's like, oh, this doesn't look so difficult. Random dude that contributed like minor fix day ago. Like, oh, hold on a minute. 5 minutes later, comes back to me with a patch. Here you go, this works. I mean, I didn't actually run anything, but it compiles fine, it's cool. Well, I plug it in, and damned if the kid ain't right. Compiles right away, everything's happy. Get all those little white lines instead of the red and the yellow ones in the compiler output. It was great. I started up, plugged in the Wi-Fi card that was buggy. Flawless. Everything's sweet. Dude just fixed something that I had been banging my head into the laptop screen for hours. There's a dent, right? It was a problem. And he just started helping, because when he had given me the first fix, I was like, dude, this is awesome. Thank you so much. This is so great. And now he's excited. And then he starts helping. And then I keep feeding him more problems, because you know that the next day they released a new compat wireless, and you know that the next day it was broken again. So I went back to him. I said, hey, dude, could you fix this for me again? You're awesome. Thank you. And then he fixed it. And now he's on my development team, because he was literally opening so many bugs that included the fix that I could not keep committing them fast enough to make it worth the while. I'm like, look, just save me the time here. You have commit access. I put a little post on the webpage. You're a member of our team now. Have a great day. The kid was ecstatic. He got drunk. Actually, I think he started drunk, but that was good. It worked for him, so we're good. Okay. I try to live by one rule. And if you see me anywhere, anytime, you test me on this. If at all possible, never turn down free help. If I am carrying around a 200-pound box and I'm a 190-pound man, you are welcome to help anytime you want. If you trip me, that's not so polite. I have a reference to how open source projects survive poisonous people, because I say, if at all possible, sometimes some people just aren't ready to give you the help that they want to give you. You cannot jump in and rewrite a driver in the kernel when you have never opened up anything other than Visual Basic. It's just not going to happen, and you're going to cause more harm than good trying most of the time. But if you step up through the things, people will help you, you will learn more, and you'll reach the point where you're telling Linus who's boss. Okay? When someone offers the help, try to work with them. The more people I teach what I know, the more other people have that knowledge, so I don't have to teach the rest. I used to have to teach classes on web cracking. If any of you don't know how to crack web, I will throw this at you. If it didn't belong to Egypt, who was really kind to lend it to me. The point is, the people needing help today may be providing it tomorrow. And that's not even necessarily in the same topic. It could just be that I'm really great at Wi-Fi and I can't code worth a crap. And so I'm helping you with Wi-Fi and you fix my coding problems. We're all in this together in the security community. If we don't help each other, we may as well just buy all of our products, because at least somebody's paid to develop that stuff, and when I report a bug, they have to care. The problem is if we're open source and we care about the bugs, our products will be so much better at some point that these guys won't be able to sell stuff to us, which is kind of already working well in the server market. Okay? Putting this into practice, right? Everyone has their place. Whether you're learning, asking questions, answering questions, whatever, there is a spot for everybody in this community. No matter how little you know, there's probably something you know about tying your shoes better than me, and I'd love to learn it because mine keep coming untied. Okay? Stop thinking you're worthless. I tend to boil things down to black and white all the time, but the fact of the matter is, if you spend 10 minutes on something and you don't think that it's worthwhile, then what the hell did you just do? You just wasted your time. Okay? Spend time on stuff. Be worthwhile. Contribute. More importantly, stop thinking other people are worthless. If somebody reports a bug, thank them. Say, great, this is helpful. Can you tell me how to reproduce it? Because it doesn't happen to me. Right? All the skill levels are needed. All the ideas are valuable. It's really worthwhile just to care. I was going to end at this point because, frankly, I rant a lot and it's fun, but somebody brought up to me that a lot of people actually didn't know half of the stuff I talked about. So I'm going to actually step through what I expect from people. You find a bug in a project. So you Google it to try to find if there's any results, and there's nothing, and then you use, I can't even say that. So you go to the product's bug tracker, and you realize, oh, nobody's reported a bug. But you know what happens is a lot of times people don't think beyond themselves. They think, oh, I run Ubuntu and Ettercap doesn't work, so I'm going to report a bug to Ubuntu. And that's what happens a lot, is if you go to Gentoo's bug tracker, Debian's bug tracker, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. I have actually fixed numerous bugs in Pen2 and in open source software by literally stealing the patch from the Debian source deb, and then I submit it upstream, which Debian always does, by the way, but there's something I do different. I'm actually not joking about that. Debian's really good about upstreaming things. They just won't beat the dev over the head with it. I will. I will sit there and I will dog on you every 15 minutes until you fix that bloody bug. Or at least give me a valid excuse why the patch is wrong, and then I'll go try to hunt down the guy that knows how to code and I'll fix it. Okay? Check out the product's website, find a mailing list if there is one, read the archives first, then post and say, here's my problem. Give as much info as you can. Details of the issue, how you made it, how somebody can reproduce it, your distribution of Linux, because they're all just different enough to mess with people. Why are they that different? Because people couldn't fix their bugs together. Okay? Version numbers of all the software, the dependencies, whatever you can know, whatever's reasonable to submit, submit that. If there's external or even the project's own bug track that has more information, say, hey, I'm looking at this. You guys haven't solved it. What can we do together to solve this? The email takes 2 minutes to write. Join the magical world of IRC, where the men are men, the women are men, and the children are federal agents. Most projects have a channel on Freenode. Mine is #Pen2. And if you come there and you offer me help, odds are very low that you will be turned down. Ask if anyone else has seen your bug. And if you're on IRC, please learn what pastebin is. If you flood huge amounts of logs into the chat channel, people get kind of upset. Pastebin is not just for anonymous users anymore. If you found fixes for the problem on some bug tracker or wherever you found them, tell somebody, hey, I found this fix for my problem. I don't even know how to apply it. Can you help? They're going to be like, oh, cool, you can test it. And then I'll commit it to the repo so that everybody else can have the fix. Work with the users and the developers, reproduce the issue, okay? Together with the help of the mailing lists or IRC or the bug tracker, I've had like 30-page conversations on bug trackers before about problems. If you resolve the problem upstream, instead of helping yourself or helping your distribution, you now help everybody. So the package maintainer, the package owner, the people that actually produce the product are on top, and then it goes down to the Linux distributions, and then the Linux distributions give it to the users, and most of the stuff just never seems to make it all the way back up that chain from mostly lack of a prick like me. So work on it. Be more persistent. Care. Because if we can collectively fix more things for everybody by just a few minutes of extra work, by sending an email every day to the developer, hey, you fixed this yet? Hey, you look at this yet? Hey, I reproduced it again. Hey, you want to see my debug logs? Ooh, I used GDB for the first time. It's really cool. Right? Care. It doesn't really take that much effort. Okay? The spoils of war are very good. Countless hours of work can be fixed. Even if you don't fix the problem yourself, you've now left a huge trail of emails and forum posts and what have you that is going to give people the information that they need to follow the work that you have already done. The best part is if you do this all silently and try to fix it and you succeed, or if you fail, there could be somebody else doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, which awesomely seems to happen to me a lot for the things that I am unsuccessful at fixing. But the point is the more public you do things, the more other people are going to know and they're going to help. If you just keep it all to yourself, nobody can help. Okay? Most developers put a cool commit message in there that says, you know, this guy helped me. I know that about half of my commit messages the week before I brought Wuo down on staff, that they all said his name, which is why I got really tired of it. Step 4, profit. Seriously though, helpful people get help. I am Sicilian and I run my life like the Italian mafia. If you help me, you are part of the family and I will kill somebody to help you. FBI, I'm totally kidding about that part. But I do have a shovel in my trunk. Any questions? No? Well, in that case, contact info, in case you forgot, I am Zero Chaos on Freenode. I am the guy that kicked you out of the channel. It was fun for me too. Pen2.ch is not in China. It is in Switzerland. We are not affiliated with the Chinese government in any way, although they probably use our software because it's better than that track thing that the other guys use. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate all of you. And again, if you could just embarrass Logan a little bit by making some noise, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.